Do okay, cool. Welcome. And who are you?
I'm Dan Cherkis.
Cherkis. Daniel or just Dan?
Daniel on my work email address, but Dan.
Okay. I didn't know if it was. I have no idea. If
Birth
Dan could be
certificate says
represented.
Daniel.
Okay.
but
Do you have a middle name?
I do.
What?
It's Martin.
Okay. All right. All right.
That's on the birth certificate also.
You could have made it up. I know either way. You change your name.
Middle name's not danger or trouble or anything like that.
You missed an opportunity. How did you get started riding? Start with that first question.
I think my parents bought me a bike.
Okay.
When I was, who knows how old I was. As far as the riding that me, I got into that probably 2003 time frame, 2000 somewhere around then.
Okay.
My knees, like many folks, are not what they used to be.
Right.
I like staying active, and I found that that's one of the easiest activities on my knees. So that's when I really started getting a little more serious into being active on a bicycle, and not as much on other sports that required me to do stuff on my knees.
Did you immediately get like a high-end road bike? Did you get a commuter bike?
No, actually, I walked into AG's and started looking around at bikes, and I looked at Conti's, I think down at the beach because I don't think they were up here yet. Looked at a couple other places, the bike shops.
Okay.
I don't know if it was Three Sports at the time or if it was the predecessor, but I knew that was more bike that I wanted to get into. So looked at AG's, found something that they called last year's colors, and so I said, I can handle last year's colors, and so it was marked down, and I started doing RABA rides.
Okay. You started with the RABA ride.
Yep. ABC, and then lots of
yeah. And we no longer have Laurel Park. I don't know if you
yes,
Laurel
I know.
Park.
It's raised.
I've actually not gone to see what it looks like now.
I haven't. I've just read reports.
So, but it was a road bike though.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Drops.
When you have a gravel bike now, right?
I don't. That'll be my next investment. My bike is solid road bike.
Okay. For some reason, I thought you had a bike it's got tread on the tires though.
Yeah. It's
okay. All right. So you got a road bike with some tread on the tires.
No.
Wait. Okay.
No.
So it's all road.
It's all road.
Okay.
Yep.
I thought you had a gravel bike. So you're saying that's in the future at some point?
Yes.
Okay.
It is. It's been in the future for a couple of years. But I think this year is going to be the year that I definitely do it. I've got too many people who are saying they're having a lot more fun being able to do both. And, I want part of that.
It is nice. It's nice to have a bike that can do both.
That's what I hear.
But I made sure I got one that was far enough away from a road bike that I wouldn't question like which one I'm going to take out today, kind of thing. Like the road bike is definitely a road bike. So when you started riding with RABA, like how was that experience? You just joined the group rides and you just kind of fell in with some folks.
A buddy of mine who I was working with had a bike, and he had mentioned the ABC ride. We started showing up for that, and the Tuesday night ride and the Thursday night ride and some of the other rides that they had. Just riding, and also just the culture of that organization is fantastic. It's very inviting. It's very nurturing. It's supporting, and it was. I understood if you want to get into riding, these are the folks you want to start with, and true to this day, it's a great crowd to ride with.
They are very welcoming. They've got rides for everyone.
That is exactly
super slow.
That is, I think, the nail on the head. It's got rides. That organization has rides for beginner to advanced to all times of the day, depending on when your availability is.
So when you started riding with RABA, and they had 20-mile rides and 30-mile rides, and I
started doing the 20, basically up to Ashland Coffee and Tea and back, and then and then started doing the add-ons where get up to 30 and stretch it to 40, and obviously speeds increase too. So I mean, they're great training rides too for being building up endurance. The roads up there, you're not too far out of town. So if you lose your way, if you drop off the back of someone, you can still make your way back to, where other riders are. And there's so many riders all over the place.
Right.
You can find someone else. Oh, you're heading back.
That is true.
Yeah.
Did you ever set any, like when you started riding, you were getting faster, you're noticing some improvements? Did you set any goals? Like, were there motivation, or was it just always I just want to go ride and just enjoy the ride?
Okay. No training.
Okay.
Like I had no training programs. No, I want to get X numbers of miles in over the year. It was just enjoying.
Just ride.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Any century rides? Have you done it? Do you do events and things like that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. What are some of the events you've done like over the years?
I was doing prior to when I got that bike, I was riding what I think was known as the MS 150. So I started doing that in the late 90s with a buddy of mine, and we ended up doing it with some more buddies of his, and it was more just like a guy's weekend.
Okay.
Go out. So I was doing some long rides, but not really training. When I got the road bike from Aegis that I had mentioned, then is when I really started to, let's see what I can do with a bike. And so I rode Bike MS, which later became, MS 150, which later became, I think, Bike MS. I did that for, I think, about 18 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then have been taking a little break. And, I've done, never traveled to Europe to ride. Usually, if charitable cause rides.
Those are the ones you're doing?
And I've centuries of, kind of just for my own interest.
And Tour de Midnight. You've done Tour de Midnight every year, a few years? How long has Tour de Midnight been going?
I don't know how long it's been going. I've done it, I think this past fall was maybe the fourth. I think about the pint glasses I have. I think I've got 4 pint glasses. Thinking about the pint glasses.
It's one way to keep up with it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, they have the year on it. I definitely counted that. Got a ride next weekend up in Delaware, which is, I guess, coincidentally another brewery. The Dogfish Head, they refer to it as IPA. In that case, it stands for I pedal a lot. And as I mentioned, I guess some previous guests that you've had on here will be riding with them as well.
Oh, nice.
It just turns out we're both going to the same place.
How often do the rides end with a beer?
It's usually my Saturday rides that a lot of folks see. I just would go grab a beer on my front stoop and take a picture of it, and I noticed that there was some chatter around it.
Yeah.
When I go to the beach, I kind of figuratively tickle myself, and the beach we go to for riding in July, the winds pick up and it gets hot. So I'll get out on the road 6:30 in the morning to do my ride there before the winds really pick up, and get back to the beach house that we're renting, and 7:30 in the morning, or I'll have a beer and I'll post it. I'm on vacation.
Yeah, you've earned it at that point. You've earned it at that point. So you weren't completely couch potato before like 2003.
No.
Okay. No. You were doing something.
Yeah. I grew up with sports.
Okay. All right. Why do you keep riding? Why do you keep doing it?
I enjoy it for several reasons. The exercise, the activity. I like being outside.
Okay.
The social aspect of it. I've always been the types, and knowing myself, that if I'm not, activities help me burn. It's like it's exertion.
Okay.
And if I don't exert somehow, I know that I kind of have pent up energy that I need to let go.
Okay. All right. So it keeps you going.
Yeah.
It's staying in motion there. When did you start doing the? I'm forgetting the name. Final Gravity. When did you start doing? How long? I don't need to ask it. When did you start doing the Final Gravity rides?
Final Gravity rides. That's once around here.
Yeah.
I started doing that, I think, last year.
Okay.
The owner is really good friends with some of the folks who would show up to the Saturday ride for the Carytown Bicycle Company ride. And so that's where he was introduced to me on that ride. And I learned that he was doing the Final Gravity ride. And so I wanted to be able to promote that as well. So during my welcoming intro speech on the Saturday rides, I would say, hey, tomorrow Tony's doing his Final Gravity ride if you're interested in that. And again, it's a chance to get out. There's socialization, and particularly through the pandemic, that I think was that was my socialization was cycling. Because you could be socially distant from folks and still interacting with folks.
Right.
I was doing that in my neighborhood. I guess when I was working from home, I thought the benefit that I had was go ride my bike around the neighborhood, and there's people out walking. You can say hi to folks. You don't feel like you are secluded from everyone else.
So many people got outdoors in 2020.
I think American culture needed that.
That's a good point.
We had become very sedentary. And I think that was a chance where, okay, we can get out. And there's so many health benefits to it. And
right, because now we have a shortage. I think the shortage on bikes is dying down.
But even just walking, getting out
and doing stuff in general.
I knew the apparel companies appreciated it. Sports apparel.
Do you have wait. You mentioned the CBC ride. When did you start doing that? Like, what's your involvement? Like that kind of thing?
I started doing that ride, I think, about when it started. And that was, I think, I when it was based out of the Roadrunner store. I was riding with those groups. I don't know how I got started with them, but they would meet in front of the Roadrunner store. Then when the owner of the Roadrunner store became one of the founders of Carytown Bicycle Company, they more or less officially moved that ride starting in front of the bike shop.
Makes sense.
The Carytown location, its previous location, I think was the 3300 block. And I started riding then with that group. It kind of died down a little bit over a number of years. Interest kind of dissipated. And then I happened to be riding with one of the owners at the time. We were out on a casual ride, and we were going along the Capitol Trail, and it was very casual. And we were kind of saying, we'd like to pick it up a little bit. And it was Tim Mullins, and he mentioned, he said, I sure do miss the CBC ride when it was, there was a lot more interest in. And I said, well, how about if I pick it back up again and get it going? And so that's been 2016, I think, is when. So I would say the consistency of that one's been since about 2016.
2016?
At that ride, picking back up.
But so I see that you post the rides.
I do. I put a lot more structure around that ride. Because it was just whoever shows up, and whoever doesn't show up. So I've added structure to it. And it has been welcomed by the shop. I mean, again, it's not a shop ride, but it is a shop ride. The shop has basically said you can use our name and make it what you will. But I try to say that I coordinate the ride. It's everyone's ride. They make that ride what they want it to be.
And that's cool because I've yet to attend this ride, but I've seen it, and it's good to know the ride exists. That you could meet out at the shop and go take a ride from the shop. And y'all get coffee after? What's the thing that happens?
We do. What the shop used to do afterwards, let's see, even back in 2007, 2010, we would go to local coffee shops afterwards and just grab coffee, whoever was there. When it really waned, and it was myself and another guy who's moved back to Atlanta. When it was at the location now, he and I would finish the ride, go across to Galaxy Diner, have a beer and a coffee. and so that became our shtick.
Yeah.
That we'd go across there, and so that was my post ride beer at the time.
Okay.
And we'd grab coffee there, and now what the shop started doing was offering coffee to bring people inside.
Okay.
And I found out yesterday that's going to resume again.
Okay. I know that.
So I think everyone liked being able to go back to the shop. If there was something going on with the bike, they could talk with the mechanics. If they wanted to look around, or if they just want to sit around and drink coffee at the bar in the shop, where they have set up. They didn't necessarily have to go somewhere else. If they had driven to the shop to park in the parking lot, they could stay there again, just going back in the shop. So the whole concept of really having coffee afterwards started when the shop was saying, we're going to provide the coffee for you.
And in regards to I don't say building a community, building a group, but the adding to the social aspect of when riders don't have to immediately go home or go somewhere else, right? They can hang out right there at the end of the thing. Like the Yawn at Dawn, we can stop and eat cinnamon buns at the end of the ride, which is great.
And to add to that, what has happened a number of times with a couple of riders is when it was at the shop, their wife and kids would come up to the shop and hang out too. The folks who lived in the area.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Again, it was there was a gathering aspect of it where you didn't necessarily need to be on the ride, but you just come up and hang out with the folks afterwards for coffee. Whether it's family members. There were folks, hey, I couldn't make it to the ride. It was too cold. Didn't want to come out. But they come into the shop and have coffee afterwards because of the community, the socialization we were talking about.
And that is great. And that's one of the many things that I, felt sad was disrupted by the pandemic and all the things that came from it. Being able to get to that, just people hanging out and just socializing casually kind of thing. And hopefully we're getting closer to that. But you're saying the shop is back to that.
Yesterday.
Okay, they're gonna let them do that. Cool.
Yeah. Part of it was when they changed their hours because of the amount of business that they were doing, the amount of inventory that they had. They couldn't justify, from what I understand, keeping the shop open. So they were opening later in the day, which was not synchronous with when the Saturday ride would end. Yeah. But now that they're going to be opening, I think they said they're going to start opening at 10, starting at the end of this week. Okay. That will be about the same time that we finish up our ride. And so come on in and have some coffee.
With that ride, Carytown Bike Company.
I think they Carytown Bicycle Company.
Yeah. They have it's normally two paces, right? It's normally Saturday, they have a really fast pace and then
it depends.
Chiller pace.
It's not as structured as the RABA rides where we can post an A pace, a B pace. We figure out what we want it to be enjoyable to everyone to have a decent experience. So if there are some folks who are riding a little slower and there's enough of us, then we may say, hey, anyone who wants to go a little quicker, split up in two groups. Okay. Anyone, and there have been times when folks who clearly can handle the quicker group have said, you know what, I just want to chill and hang out in the back and chat. And so again, it depends on what you want to get out of that day's ride. Okay. We will also split up for safety too. There have been some times when we've gotten so big that we're conscious of the fact that you can't have a big mass of 50 people holding cars back. So let's split it up in a smaller group. I mean, we don't want to do it, and we don't want any drivers getting irritated by having a pack. It's about everyone
being safe and still being enjoyable. And
and everyone getting to where they want to go on the road.
Right. But there has to be that moment when we have these big rides. We're like, okay, we have 20 of us. We should not be in this super long pace line. Let's separate out a bit. But people have to somebody has to make that decision. Memorable cycling events or rides. Any rides that kind of stand out that you've done at any point in time, kind of thing, by chance?
Yeah, some of when the Bike MS ride was on the Eastern Shore. That was some of the nicest riding I've done. It's very windy because it gets cross breeze. It would start flat, in Charles City, not
Cape Charles.
Cape Charles, excuse me. Thank you. And they would overnight on the bay, but they called it, I think, Ocean to Bay. So we would ride across the peninsula on the ocean side, and make our way back up to the bay side overnight, and then reverse it the next day. But just because of the landscape is so different than it is here,
right?
No hills whatsoever.
Yeah.
But it's scenic.
Yeah.
It's scenic.
Okay. I've been out in the Eastern Shore, and I've done what is that ride called? And they're going to be mad at Between the Waters. Between the Waters is a ride that I've done a few times, and every year I'm like, should I do that again? But if there's a ride, a lot of people go out there, go do the Between the Waters.
Yeah.
Tour de Shore is the other one that's out there again. But you're right, it is.
Seagull Century is a little further north.
Right. Seagull,
Salisbury.
Because it's pancake flat, and can get windy. Then October, when the Between the Waters, it can be cold potentially as well.
Yeah.
But worth revisiting.
Now another ride memorable is one that I've done a number of times is the Tar Wheel Century, which is a metric. When they were talking to Century there, that is down in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. Pancake flat, headwind from every direction. But the neatest aspect, in my opinion, of that ride was the entire community comes out and stocks up the rest stops with what they want to share with the riders. They have these sausage balls that sausage and flour that are fantastic. Deviled eggs. You've got some power bars and scooters and that kind of stuff. But you get people who are saying, I want to make with the recipe that I want to make, and that's what they're featuring at these rest stops.
Is the rest stop really?
Yeah, there's this turbo toffee that I remember, which was fantastic. And they put, I think, some coffee grounds in it, and they made these little chocolate covered toffee bites that were just fantastic. But you can see the folks who are sitting at these rest stops are proud to have people who are saying, "Oh my gosh, this is fantastic," or "It's delicious." I mean, there's again that community that.
That's great, because I do hear sometimes as we go to events in different areas that the locals aren't necessarily supporting kind of thing, the fact that we're out there. So that's good to hear that people are actually willing to come out and put some, not I won't say put wares, but stocking the rest stop with treats and things like that.
Yeah, it's not just peanut butter sandwiches and M&Ms and I mean the people have actually planned and baked and prepared for these rest stops. It's a neat experience.
Speaking of rest stops, when they're not being catered by locals, what would you like to see at a rest stop? You pull up to a rest, you're doing a 70, 60 mile ride. Like, what's something you want to see at a rest stop? Outside of just hydration.
I've learned, and I think everyone has to go through it. You learn that if you're on a long ride, you want fuel at these rest stops. You want some protein, you want some carbohydrates, you want something that is going to sustain you. So many rides, and this is my opinion, will end with barbecue. As far as the lunch afterwards, and for me personally, I don't want barbecue after I've just completed a 70-mile ride or 100-mile ride. I want something that's going to restore what I need. I don't want something that's just going to sit there.
Okay, something more nutritious at the end of the ride.
Yeah,
yeah. What do you take on your rides? Like when you go, let's say you do, super short. We're gonna short. 20, 30 mile ride as opposed to like Tour de Midnight, 60, 70 mile. Right. What do you take on those kind of rides? Snack wise.
I've learned that I need to hydrate. I know there are folks who can go do a 40, 50 mile ride on one bottle. I want to make sure I have two bottles, two filled bottles.
Okay.
Most rides if they're under 30 miles, I'm fine with water.
Okay.
But I definitely don't want to run out of water. when I want to drink something. If it's going to be longer than 30, or if it's going to be, shorter than 30, but exertion, I'll put some of those noon tablets, the NUN tablets in there. I find that works well for me for electrolytes. I've tried Gatorade. Again, I think everyone's different. I've found for me that works well for me. My body reacts to it well.
The noon tablets.
Yep, the noon tablets. The Pro Bar has these little chews that I like also, little gummy chews for energy. I find those work better for me than some of the other brand tabs or gels that they've had, or the gummies that they have. I like Goo. I know that there's other brands out there.
Okay, or the brand Goo. Okay,
yeah, the brand Goo. But there's plenty of other ones out there that I can feel when my body is actually okay. Cool, I've got the energy, or I don't have it. So I buy what I have learned works for me. On the longer rides, peanut butter jelly sandwiches. I love those. Bananas. I eat pickles and the pickle juice to try to get some of the sodium back.
Real specific question.
Yeah.
With the noon tablets, do you have a particular flavor?
Yes.
Or is it just like, okay, what's a flavor of choice there?
Yeah. And some of the goos, they'll have like a chocolate banana, or I definitely don't like chocolate. I gravitate more towards the fruit. So the pink grapefruit for me.
For the
noon tablets, pink grapefruit and triberry. And to be specific, during the summer I prefer the pink grapefruit. And during the wintertime I prefer the triberry.
Really?
I don't know why, but that's just, my body does it. There's the flavors that I'm.
And with the Goo, with the flavor.
Strawberry banana typically, but I've also found surprisingly that they're I don't recall the name of it. It has no flavor to it. It's just the straight Goo.
Oh, they have it just plain.
They one with
plain
no flavor to it. Yep.
I would hope that would cost less. I also would do the strawberry banana one as well. When I was doing Goo, the strawberry banana is the one that I would go with.
But I've tried the grape and strawberries and I definitely prefer strawberry banana. Okay,
all right. I feel that with the Goo, because that's a weird thing, right? To do the gel, I feel that's like it definitely should be a flavor that somebody should want. Like it should not be just like I'll do whatever. Like it should be a flavor you want, because it's a weird kind of thing.
Yeah. And I don't do the ones with caffeine either.
It's caffeine free. Okay.
Yeah, I tend to stay away from those, which I don't think they make a strawberry banana with caffeine, but I've tried some of the other ones with caffeine and some without, and I don't find there's a difference for me.
So if you find there's no difference, then I would also opt to avoid the caffeine as well.
Again, when I'm riding, I don't need to stay awake. I need the energy. I need the fuel. So I don't need the caffeine necessarily.
Have you clearly you take note of the nutrition that you take with you. Have you had a situation where you bunked or you got close? You were like, okay.
And that's where I had to learn that I need to, on longer rides, I need to start making sure that I have some protein.
Okay.
Whether it's a banana or even some cold cuts, like out of a 7-Eleven. I remember buying some bologna one time just to have something. But
a desperate move.
Yeah.
But that didn't, like, when you started. So back in 2003, you get the bike from Maisie's. Like, did you learn about all this, or did you like those first couple rides you were already kind of dialed in your nutrition?
Oh no, it has been a constant work in progress.
Okay. All right.
You learn what works and what doesn't work and what your body. What I've found now is it won't be too TMI, but yes. I need to drink a lot of water after even like the Saturday ride, 18 mile ride that I do.
Okay.
I find I need at least 2 full water bottles afterwards, or else later in the evening, my legs start cramping. I have not flushed out lactic acid out of my legs, and heaven forbid, seizing up in the middle of the night because your leg starts cramping. I mean, that is one of the worst feelings that I've ever experienced, and I stay as far away from that as possible. So I make sure that I down these bottles of water.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess those are all things that we would, you would learn as you ride more, and figure out like, oh, my body needs to do that. I need to hydrate more, post ride, or else,
And that's what I meant by a constant work in progress, because what my body needed and how it reacted 20 years ago is different now, just because I'm 20 years older. The body doesn't act the same way.
Do you have a bike computer? Do you have gadgets on your bike, or is it just you and the wheels? It's you and the bike kind of thing?
I use a Wahoo computer.
Okay.
And I've been very happy with that. I was using a Garmin Edge for a number of years. I went from the 500 to the 820. And what I still found was, again, as I mentioned, being 20 years older and the body changing, my eyesight is not what it was. I need I need readers.
Yeah.
And the Wahoo that I have is a larger unit, so I can actually read it. But it does all of the functions that I think that I want.
Okay.
And it does more than I need, which I don't necessarily use all the features on it that it needs, but I can read it. That's one of the main things that I like about it.
Okay.
As far as other gadgets, I don't have cameras. I run with lights, both front and rear.
Okay.
And I do it day and night.
Okay.
Of course, if it's at night, I've got a spotlight or headlamp, and if it's during the day, I've got a blinker. I mean, I think one of the most important things as a cyclist is to be visible. Everyone always says, and I tell my daughter, when you're riding, be predictable and be visible.
Right.
You have to expect that you are invisible, so you do everything you can to be visible.
Right. Yeah. That is solid advice.
Yes. Even from the colors you wear, wear something that is going to make sure that, or not make sure, but increase the likelihood that someone will see you.
Yeah. As you mentioned, colors. Tell me about some of your favorite kits. I imagine you have more than one kit that you really like.
Yeah. My favorite kit is one of the most uncomfortable. I had mentioned a buddy of mine who had moved up here from Atlanta. He ran a bike shop down there, and he's since moved back. But he had a buddy who was doing some kit designs, and they did a short run on a kit that I loved. It was just, had these crazy colors in it.
Yeah.
So I of course got one, and it doesn't breathe worth anything. It is. I mean, there's such a small slice of the time of year when I can wear it, because there's no, it like I said, it doesn't breathe. It feels so, like it, I think that says, feels almost like cellophane on.
Oh, that does not sound like good riding material.
No.
But it's memorable, I guess. It's got some memories. Okay.
Yep.
All right. That I can understand. Do you have a kit you enjoy that is comfortable? Let's go there.
Yeah. Well, got a couple of bibs that I really like. Actually, I would say, as far as kits that I enjoy, sure. I'm going to say it's actually more garments and it's bibs, just because I think that's the business side. That's where it's not the rubber meets the road, but that's where the body part meets the bike, and having a decent chamois. Yeah, I found there was RABA's classic bibs. I thought were fantastic, and I think that they've always said that's the one that they put their money behind before they were, I guess, acquired. But when it was originally RABA, that I think they said that you could wear it for 90 days, and if you didn't like it, you could return for a refund. That was but they were that sure that people would like it, and I would say that is some of the most comfortable bibs that I have. And coincidentally, Specialized had a model of bibs which they don't make anymore. And again, because of the breathability of the fabric and the comfort of me, I've tried bibs that obviously we're all different. That some they're cut a little for someone who's a little more narrow in the hips, or shorter in I guess in the thighs. So I think to each his own with their kits,
right.
but those are the bibs that I go towards that get the most wear.
Those RAFA classic bibs. Okay. Yeah. I've tried a RAFA jersey, and that's it. Which I didn't find as I might not have. I try to get either super thin jerseys, and I guess I did not like the RAFA. I don't know if it was a summer one. Either way, tried a RAFA jersey, and that's it. But yeah, with the bibs, that's a real particular thing that needs a. When you started riding, did you immediately get chamois padded shorts and stuff like that, or did you got on the bike and
it's funny. I was talking with someone last week, and we were talking about this. How did you evolve into cycling kit? And as someone who grew up riding a bike, I rode a bike, and then when I got was trying to get a little more serious into it, I really didn't want to go too far into it. So it was a progression for me. I think I went to cycling shorts and realized, there's less resistance, and and of course there's the chamois there. I wasn't riding long enough rides that I could appreciate the value of a chamois, but not having walking shorts flapping in the wind was nice. And then I tried a jersey, and again, realized it's a little more aero. You're not flapping in the wind, and wow, you don't have a huge, it's not sticking to your back because you're sweaty, the way a cotton jersey would, or excuse me, a cotton t-shirt would. So I mean, it's definitely, I think a kit is a set of tools.
I'm trying to think. I guess in the case of people learning to ride, I guess that's the progression of you start riding, and realize like I could be wearing something more comfortable, right? Instead of this cotton shirt and cotton shorts or whatever.
And there's an efficiency, right, as far as if you are there's less friction, there's less drag.
Because nobody wants to chafe.
Agreed. Now for me, that's something that I never found that I needed, and I don't know why, because chamois cream.
Okay.
Tried it. Never saw a value.
Oh, really?
And I found it more of an inconvenience to actually try to use it, and then obviously
you can get rid of it.
Yeah. But I have, for me personally, that's why I think that chamois is a very important choice.
Well, bless your heart that you don't have to use chamois cream.
Oh my gosh! I consider myself fortunate. I do.
Yeah, because it's just weird. It's weird to put on. And my thought when if the chamois cream goes on, I'm doing a bike ride somewhere. Like if I've got to put this stuff on, a bike ride is happening.
Embrocation, I found the same thing. I had embrocation early on to try to warm up, keep the muscles warm, but I found that more hassle than benefit for me.
Really? Okay.
I felt that, warm up the muscles on your own while you're riding, and then have clothing on that's going to do what it needs to do. But 30 degrees in January, I don't want a cream on my legs to keep my muscles warm. I'd rather have a layering on it.
So you ride in the cold?
I ride year round.
Do you recall the coldest you've ridden in? Is there a limit? Is there like have you set a limit of like it's too cold?
My limit is more from a safety standpoint. I definitely do not ride in ice or snow.
Awesome.
And my saying is that I would never ride in the rain unless I was paid to do so. That's for the pros. I've ridden in the rain just from being caught in the rain.
Right. Yeah.
But if it's raining outside, I'm not going to go. There is a risk factor that goes along with that I don't want to necessarily do. But as far as cold, I've learned what garments I need for riding in the cold, and I think the coldest I've ridden in is probably low 20s. Okay. But I don't have an aversion for riding in the cold.
Okay. All right.
That again, that's just me. There's plenty of folks who don't want to ride, if it gets below 40. And I say to each his own, and there's no shame one way or another. And to me, there's also no, chest thumping for riding in 20. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, it's what you're comfortable with.
Yeah. Again, I like riding. I like being outside.
What about the other end, the heat? Are you just as adjustable there, or like you'll ride in the 90?
Riding the 90, it's gotten. I guess if the what is it? The humidity gets above 100. I've been on some of the bike MS rides and the MS 150s. Plenty of those rides that have been well into the 90s, because when those rides also would go down into Carolina years ago. I mean, it definitely got muggy and hot down there.
Yeah.
But again, that's why you have to choose your kits.
Right. Yeah, have the right materials, not just have like a thick cotton shirt on and shorts.
Agreed. And hydration, and making sure you have enough, to replenish what you're sweating during the heat. But no, I don't have a concern with riding in the heat.
Do you take your bike on your vacations?
If we're driving, I have yet to pack it and fly anywhere with it. Okay. But on vacations, when we've gone to the beach or we've gone to friends, yes, I'll bring my bike with me, and I consider it part of my vacation again, because it's exercise, and I feel better when I'm doing some sort of exercise. So if we're going to the beach, and I'll plan to make sure to get up early and get my bike ride in, and not necessarily do it when we've got other family time going on.
Okay. You just go out and do a ride on your own, or you like try to meet the clubs or anything?
Usually on my own. There's there have been times that I've met other folks who are out riding, and stayed in touch with them, and hey, we're going to the beach this week during the summer. How about you? Oh no, we're not doing it. Next year, oh yeah, we're gonna be at the same time. Great, we'll make sure we catch up and get out and go riding.
Okay, all right.
One of the features that to interrupt briefly, one of the features on the cycling computer that I have that I really like is you can set a location or a home.
Yep.
So when I've gone out, I make sure, if I'm going out on my own, if I'm going out in, I guess, the areas that I'm not that familiar with, and I just load a route, if I get off the route, because I've set where I started from, there's a feature, if I needed to use it, that I could say, hey, I'm lost, or I don't know where I am. Right. And it will calculate the GPS to say, okay, to return to the place that you started, this is the route to do it based on where you are right now. Nice. I mean, again, I think it's a nice feature. I haven't had to use it, but I know it's there, and I would use it if I needed to.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think the Garmin's definitely do have I want to say they have like a set home kind of feature kind of thing. On that note, I also had the A20, the Garmin Edge A20, and I also upgraded to a larger screen because I wanted to be able to see it better. And that's how I ended up with the Garmin 1030, because it does have a larger screen. Not saying you should switch to Garmin or anything, but that was my reason for that, and the battery life. Larger Garmin, longer battery life. But I had the A20. It was doing the job for the time being, but I did notice I need to look down longer to see what's on the screen, because it is like 3/4, but it's a smaller screen on there.
And for me, what I found, particularly during colder rides, because the A20 is a touchscreen, I struggled with that. I preferred the buttons to scroll through. So the computer that I'm using right now is more like the older Garmin Edge 500 that I had, where it's to advanced screens. You use its buttons to advance. You're not swiping on the screen. Okay. And particularly, if you've got gloves on. Back when I was doing it, they didn't have the
touch screen.
But
the gloves the touch screen things on the gloves.
But I guess in that case, I'm more of a button guy rather than a touch screen.
The buttons won't go. The buttons won't go away. They'll still be there. I think all the Wahoo models have all the extra buttons. I know some are touchscreen now, but I think all of them have all the buttons and stuff on there.
Gotcha.
Any bad experiences out riding?
Crashing.
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend that to anyone.
It's a thing to do.
The one thing, if there's a saying that says that there are cyclists who have crashed and there are cyclists who haven't crashed yet. It's with anything in life. There are risks involved with it. I am fortunate to say, and I hope that I'm in a majority, but I think it's probably pretty well evened. I have never been hit by a car. Awesome. I know too many people who have. Yeah. And I would never even want to know what that feels like. And I hope I never do.
Yeah, that can change your perspective on riding. But yes, we hope that does not happen to you or anyone else.
But for crashing, two things that I adhere to and swear by is one is the helmet. And the story I have with that is one time when I crashed, it was very close to home. They say, seatbelts, most of the accidents happen within 5 miles of your house. Yeah. I was 1 block away from where I used to live. And part of my routine after the Carytown ride was I'd come home and the road was a one-way. It was kind of like a horseshoe. And my ritual for taking that horseshoe on the way back to my house was I would unzip my jersey a little bit. I would unclip my helmet, and I would, slowly drink my water bottle as I made this, third of a mile loop around the horseshoe. And as I came around the top side of it, there was a divot in the road. And my front wheel hit it. It jerked to the left, and I started falling over to the right. And it was in slow motion. Yeah. And as I was falling over, noticing the ground coming up, I noticed my helmet fell off my head. And in that slow motion, I got really angry at myself. And that's how slow-mo this was. I got angry and I thought to myself, I am going to bust open my head. Yeah. You were stupid. And I landed on shoulder, on elbow, on hip, on knee, on my right side. My head never hit. And from that point on, I resigned that my helmet would be the first thing on when I got on the bike and the last thing I took off when I got off the bike. I said, because I felt like I was incredibly lucky. That my head never hit, but if it had, I could not imagine. Another crash that I had was there's I guess the other side of that with the helmet. The helmet didn't crack, but I went down so hard that my sunglasses got scratched. Obviously, I did a face plant as well. I'm an advocate of wearing gloves. I know there's a lot of folks who are not wearing gloves, but for me, I think one of the first things you're going to do if you start hitting the ground is put your hands out. I would much rather not have that skin
on the road.
Because it's hard to do a lot of things afterwards. If you've got road rash on your hands. But when I landed, I had a huge bruise on my forehead. Okay. From where my helmet hit. And if I had a bruise on my forehead, that direct hit, I know that my head
that would have been a greater injury had you not had the helmet.
And of course, I destroyed the helmet after that. I figure if I got hit that much, I didn't want to think whether or not that helmet could sustain another crash. Because I wouldn't want to say, geez, I should have replaced it. No, I made sure I replaced it.
My understanding, I had to look at what articles I've read. I think it's at least more than one. That if your helmet has an impact to the ground, get rid of it. Go ahead and get a new helmet.
That's always been what I've heard recommended as well, and that was the advice I followed as well. Took a sledgehammer to it to make sure that no one else could use it, and I could never second guess whether or not it could be used.
Okay. That's the thing I remember. Just take some anger out on the helmet after the fact.
Oh no, it wasn't anger. It was just kind of like that way. There's no second guessing.
Right. You don't have to worry about someone put it on.
Yep.
Have you converted anyone to cycling? Have you introduced a friend to cycling?
I don't know if I've converted I think similar to the way that I got into cycling and the going back to the community is that's part of what keeps me going. And what I've done is helped folks understand and learn how they can cycle. And I think it's really up to them as to whether or not they want to continue with it, if they're enjoying what they're doing. Okay. As I've always been shown the ropes, I look at it as we're all in this together. And there's a local cyclist. I love the way he provides tips and suggestions. He refers to them as pro tips, and he's one of the most unassuming guys that you'll ever meet. He's a wonderful person. I know he's been riding for centuries. Not 4 centuries, but he's been riding for decades.
Yeah.
He's just a decent guy all around. He's a very talented cyclist, but he has a very casual way of saying, you might want to try doing this while you're descending, or you might want to try doing this, and it's a nice way, and that's what I try to do with other folks, newer riders as well. Hey, I see you're doing this, or I see your heel, or if you're not getting a full extension out of your leg, and it's those types of suggestions that I think can make or break an experience with someone. Right. But as far as converting them, I like the culture that we have here, and I try to promote it the same way everyone else does. So, getting back, I don't know that it's conversion, but it's basically saying you're welcome if you want to be here.
Okay. So more encouraging to the people.
Yeah. Okay. And trying to remove any sort of competitiveness or any sort of attitude. Definitely don't want to say, you don't ride well enough to ride with us. I mean, that's not what we do. It's if you want to ride with us, we'll make sure you have a good time.
Right.
We don't want to leave anyone back and have them having to fend for themselves.
Yeah. And I can recall some of my early rides with RABA, people riding with me, and not until later did I realize, they actually dropped back to make sure I didn't get lost, kind of thing. So I was like, maybe they were having a hard time. No, they actually slowed down to make sure that I got back, and I appreciate those moments. Many of those people I still ride with.
Yeah. Again, it's the culture of what we I guess the cycling culture. I'm sure the runners do it as well. I'm sure you've got a lot of talented runners who can run at a decent pace, who if there's someone new out there, is I'll run with you, and give you someone to chat with. And
what's something you're aware of now, some knowledge you have now that you would have wanted to share with yourself when you first started riding regularly? Go back and talk to younger Dan,
That's a hard question, because a lot of what I would say has only that's with me now because of experience, and I don't know that the younger Dan would necessarily be as welcoming of that advice without the experience that comes along with it. And I think some of that is the reality of how vulnerable cyclists are on the road. Things can change instantly, whether it's a dog coming out at you. But it's constantly being aware and constantly knowing that things can change so quickly, so that when I'm riding now, I try to be prepared for any and everything. It's not a paranoia. It's not a worry. It's just, what do I need to do? Whether it's, looking at driver seats to see if there's a head in there and a car door can open. It's an awareness that I think I'm a better driver because of all the cycling that I've done. I'm more conscious of everything else that's going on. And when you're in a vehicle, there is less vulnerability because you have this large cage around you. And even as a driver now, I try to remember that everyone around me is just as vulnerable as I am, even though a cyclist has nothing but a cycling kit on and a helmet.
Yeah.
I'm in a car, but I try to look at it as we both have the same vulnerability, because I don't want anything to happen to that cyclist. I don't want anything to happen to a kid on a stroller, walking in a stroller. I don't want anything to happen to a dog. That's the advice that I would give, is you have to view your riding, and you just have to be aware of everything around you.
Okay. All right. That's probably solid advice, and maybe you'll get a chance to tell your younger self. I don't know. But yeah, I guess, you're right. That's a thing that experience would come from just, going out and riding, and like, oh man, now I've got to be aware of the car doors that might swing open, or the car that might hit a bump. Like, just being aware of all those things does come with experience of being out on the road, doing urban rides, doing rural rides, those kind of things.
Yeah. People say, I don't like to ride on the road. I'm nervous about riding on the road, and I tell them you should be. I said I said that's self-preservation.
Yeah.
That's one of the things when I started riding that you didn't have to contend with that you do now is the distraction of a mobile device.
Yeah.
That was not around then, whereas the distraction of being on the phone or texting or having a text come in or trying to look for directions on a phone. Yeah. I mean, that is the one thing that worries me the most, is it's not that someone is trying to be distracted.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anyone wants to be distracted. Yeah. It's just that the potential for distraction is so much greater now.
Yeah.
And that younger Dan could not have fathomed how much distraction there is now.
Yeah. No, you would not have thought,
because the mobile devices were not around then.
Yeah, no, they would not have been. There was no Google Maps. It was not as prevalent as it is, and people weren't getting text messages and things like that.
In vehicles, in cars,
right? While in a car, kind of thing. And that's solid advice for anyone who's new. So I won't ask that question. It's just the idea of being aware and do things to make yourself more visible. If you can.
I can't imagine someone in a vehicle who hits a cyclist or a dog or anyone, because there is an emotional effect on that person, because it was not intended, but nevertheless that was the outcome. And it's again, for trying to be, I don't want someone to ever have the feeling that they hit someone. I can't imagine that.
Yeah, and we should strive to do things that make the road safer. Because no one wants to hit a cyclist. No one wants to know a person who hit a cycle, or anyone on the side of the road. Because that leaves a mark, but leaves an impact on that person's life. Kind of thing.
At least you hope it would. You hope it would leave an impact.
Yes, you would hope that they just return to normal.
And as cyclists, that there are people out there who don't tolerate cyclists on the road. And I will say that I've been run off the road, not to any injury, but I've had people come back around and trying to scream at you, get you off the road.
Right.
But I don't know that they ever could appreciate an after effect of having hit someone to do it. And to me, I don't think anyone would, if anyone had the feeling of, this is what I'm like having not hit a cyclist or hit someone, and this is what I feel having hit someone.
Yeah.
I can only expect that person would prefer to have not hit someone.
Yeah. And I think of that, what is the gain from harassing a cyclist, right? You see someone riding on the side of the road, and then you throw a soda can, or you say some
water
words
bottle,
or you do something to them as a as a driver,
or even just hitting the wipers,
right? Oh man, what is the gain, kind of thing of that? Even if it's like, you shouldn't be on the, like, yelling, you shouldn't be on, like, there's, I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's like what is the gain?
I had a woman yell at me one time. There were three of us. We were turning from 7th Street over near Legend Brewery, and there's two lanes that turn left to get on to go, I think it's 14th Street, to go back across the city. And we were in the lane, stopped at the light, and she was in the lane next to us, and we both turned when the light turned green, and we start going. And as she went by, she screamed at us and said, "Get off the road!" And then I saw, and I'm not advocating doing this, but I saw she went about a quarter of a mile, then turned into a building complex of apartments, and so I had a little bit of attitude about me at the time, and so I sped up and I approached her and I said, "Why did you yell at us to get off the road?" I said, "We were respecting the traffic controls that were out there. We were stopped." And she says, "Yeah, but no one else does it." And I said, "Then why are you mad at me for something that someone else did?" And that also resonates with me, because I try to be a conscious cyclist. I try to be visible, but I also want other drivers to know that we are respecting the traffic controls of the road, because I don't want someone getting pissed off at me for what someone else did. And where we're talking about what's the game of drivers, if they've experienced cyclists who have done crazy things, who have flipped off roads, who have ridden 4 or 5 abreast, not let cars pass, a driver would get irritated. I don't want that driver trying to run me off the road because he was pissed off at those other cyclists.
Right. We weren't the ones that did whatever that thing was.
So that may be some of the game that drivers who are exhibiting that behavior,
which is still unfortunate.
I
mean, because it's an unfortunate thing. Even if a group of cyclists are occupying the entirety of the lane,
And I try to remind folks that group of cyclists are likely also drivers. So there's a lot of folks there are a lot of cyclists who do not drive, but most of the cyclists that I know are also drivers too. So they want traffic to be at least traffic rules to be obeyed as well, whether they're driving or cycling. I know not all of them respect that even when they're cycling, but I saw that there was another time where we were coming up here in the city near VCU, and I stopped at a light. It was a one-way on Main Street, and there were cars, and there was another cyclist over on the left-hand side, and he went through the red light, and I stayed there, and his response to me is like, "Oh man, you're making me look bad," and I yelled back at him. I said, "No, you're making you look bad."
Right.
The cars see me stopped at this red light. They see you go through it.
Right. Which, yes, it is better to use it to just stop at the red light. It's just hands down. It's better to just stop at the red light.
It's the law.
Right. Yeah.
First of all, and part of, I think, our responsibility, and whether it's responsibility, it's something that we can do, is to show drivers that not all cyclists are running red lights. It's being visible. It's being saying, you have to stop for a light. We're going to stop. We're going to stop for a light.
Right. We're going to obey the laws as well.
No, I'm not saying I've never run red lights. I'm not saying I've never run. But then again, I've also, been in a car and on a 55 mile an hour road done 65. Again, we all decide when we're going to breach the law that are out there. But I think cyclists are in a position where they can show drivers that may not be that familiar with cyclists that not all cyclists break the law.
Right. We're being reckless.
Kind
of thing. What's something you would want to tell a brand new cyclist? Even though I asked you what you would want to tell younger Dan, what's something you would want to... You meet someone who's just starting, right? They just got a road bike at ages, you know? Like, what's something you'd want to tell that new person?
And I do, and it's don't put any pressure on yourself. Don't feel the pressure to have to perform. When some of these cyclists that they see going fast, or they see having very confident cycling skills, that all has been attained over time. You don't just plug in, you don't just watch YouTube and learn how to cycle. It takes time. It takes figuring it out. And people have shared with me tips for improving. I share tips for improving. I think we all do, but these are all things we've learned over time. And one of the things I tell cyclists is, you may be getting more advice as you progress as a cyclist, but I guarantee you will be in a position when you can give tips to newer cyclists.
Okay.
It's skills that you continually.
Okay. And I think that's solid advice. Like this, things will come gradually.
Yeah. And they will come.
They will come. You'll gain your own proficiency.
Yes. And there's that that adage that is, it never gets easy with cycling. What is it? It never gets easier. You just go faster. So you're always progressing.
Yeah.
You know, when you have a hill, you may be struggling to get up it.
Yeah.
But at some point, when you're comfortable really pushing it up that hill, you'll go faster. Yeah. And you'll try to go faster than you're going, so you're still going to be pushing it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Growth. There's growth there.
It is. Yep.
Well, Dan, I'd like to thank you for your time and sharing your story and your experiences and your preference for strawberry banana goose and everything. So are you going to come to the Yawn at Dawn this Friday? You think you're going to make it?
We will. That's still up in the air.
Oh man. Okay.
I know because
right, David.
Yep,
Yeah, David's leaving.
Yep.
David's leaving.
Yep.
But yeah, if you can make it, clearly if not.
No. I'm still in it right now just because of the rest of my household will still be.
Life is happening.
Yeah.
Life is happening.
And I'm going to be preparing for going away that weekend.
Okay.
But yeah, David's one of the ones who I mentioned when we would have coffee at the shop afterwards. His wife and daughter would
that's
come up.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
They would come meet us up at the shop afterwards and socialize. And so yeah, we've seen his daughter since she was born because his wife would bring her up when she was an infant.
Yeah, because he lived nearby. He's got a cute daughter.
Yeah.
But like I said,
I was flattered that you asked. So thank you to chat. I mean, I consider it a privilege. So I mean, I think it's a great offering that you have for our community, just to get to know folks around here and see what makes them tick and see what flavor goose they like. It's neat. It makes it very human.
That is the plans. I enjoy the conversations, and I hope to meet more people and learn what different flavors and snacks and all that good stuff.
Sure.
But either way, thank you for your time.
Thank you.